Okay, so welcome to Reinvent Yourself in 5 weeks. And I am Kim, and I am going to be facilitating this webinar for you. And I'm a life coach. And I want to start out with telling you that I'm going to share with you my program that will allow you to reinvent yourself in 5 weeks. And I really am going to be respectful of your time. And I have a ton of information, but I am planning to squeeze it into 1 hour so that you can rest assured that you will be getting all the information you need and that I will keep it to 1 hour. Okay, so reinventing yourself. That means letting go and just enjoying life. And I call it a fuller life. Making changes and sticking to those changes. I also look at it as living the life that you deserve. Taking risks to transition. And that could be a transition from one career to the next. It could be a transition into a new relationship or out of a relationship that's toxic and not healthy for you. Or that could be transitioning to a whole new situation. Maybe you're moving and you want to go to another place or travel or just experience life in a different way. And you can make these changes and you can do it successfully in 5 weeks when you follow these steps that I will lay out for you today. So how do you participate? Because I want this to be an interactive webinar. I know that there may be questions, and I encourage you to go ahead and write your questions in the chat box. And I encourage you to ask questions and answer any of the questions that I pose by using the chat box on your screen. So this time is for you. And I encourage you to eliminate all distractions that are in your environment. That means like turning off or turning down your cell phone, maybe creating a nice environment, making sure you have something to drink, and most importantly, that you have a pen and a piece of paper to take notes and to begin to create images of what you will be learning and how you're going to be implementing it in the next 5 weeks as we go through each of these steps. So what I want you to get from this webinar so you can gain from this presentation, one, a belief that it is possible. It's possible to make changes in your life, and it's possible to do it in 5 steps. I want you to gain the courage to take risks. Because in order to make changes, you have to take a risk, because it's leaping into the unknown. I was at a networking meeting a few months ago, and one of the presenters pulled out a plaque, and it said, "Leap, and the net will follow." And I remember feeling terrified, but realizing in order to make changes, you do have to leap. And when you believe that it's possible, the net will follow. Another that I want to make sure that you get is knowledge and information on how to make these changes and what are the steps needed. And lastly, I want you to get some practice about trusting your intuition, because that's one of the ways that you will be able to make progress and you will be able to gain from this presentation and also move forward in the next 5 weeks, is to just trust your intuition. We all have it, and I will definitely say more and give you some tools about how you can begin trusting your intuition. So let's start with setting an intention for this workshop. What do you want to get out of this webinar today? So I want you to take a deep breath and breathe in and blow it out. And when you take a deep breath in, I want you to breathe in openness and acceptance of all the new information that you may gain today, or information that you've heard before, but it may resonate with you differently because of the intention that you're setting right now. And then when you take the next breath out, I want you to breathe out any skepticism, any negative thinking, because that's not going to be useful for you in this situation. So this is for you in your own development. And you deserve a fuller life, and you deserve change, and you deserve to reinvent yourself in whatever way that fits for you, in whatever way you desire. So that's how we're going to start is setting the intention. So what are we going to cover today? Here's the agenda. One is the Great Divide. And that Great Divide is the difference between where you are now, what you're feeling and thinking and experiencing, and where it is you want to be. Where do you want to be in terms of what you're thinking and feeling and experiencing? The next would be, we're going to go over the overview of DELVE, and that stands for Discover, Explore, Learn, Visualize, and Embrace a Fuller Life. And we'll go over all of those steps. Also, we're going to set a clear vision for what you are going to gain, where it is you want to be. Challenge some of those limiting beliefs. And we have many, and we allow them to crop up, but now is the time for us to challenge them and banish them. And also, you're going to create systems to improve your follow-through and accountability, because I know that's one of the biggest challenges is once you set a goal, how do you, and you're determined and you're like, I'm going to go for it. And then like a couple of days later, you realize that you haven't followed through on the goal. So what are some of the systems that can begin improving your follow-through and keep you accountable? Then we'll practice trusting your intuition, and I have a few exercises for that. And then lastly, give you some next steps and encourage you to take action today. So if you have any questions up until this point, don't hesitate to go ahead and put them into the chat box, and I'll do my best to answer them throughout the presentation. Okay, so I want to start off by telling you that I really enjoy reality TV. And I watch a lot of shows, and I realized when I sat back and looked at which shows really inspire me or get me to want to watch are most of those shows that show people going from one place to another. So I enjoy watching design shows where they show the designing of a room or a front yard or a backyard. And I also enjoy watching shows like Trading Spaces, where it's kind of like there's a little bit of an element of surprise and intrigue because the other person or family doesn't know what their room will look like in the end. But one of the things that I really enjoy is the show What Not to Wear. And that show is designed to ambush people, a person, in their environment, and change them from what they're wearing currently. Maybe they're wearing sweats to work or Ugg boots or sweatshirts, and they're not really paying attention to their appearance. And by the end of the show, they've evolved and transformed into whatever professional attire fits for their career. And the thing that I realize that I really like about that is it's all about the change and how quickly they make the change. They make that change in like 5 days, going from where they were to a new experience. And what you get to see is their struggle. They have a really tough time when they're going through this process of changing their mindset, of coming to a place where they believe that it's possible, of coming to a place where they believe they deserve it. And you deserve it. And then they have the opportunity, working with a stylist, working with a hairstylist, working with makeup, etc. They have the opportunity to talk through some of their challenges and their beliefs about who they are and how they look. And then in the end, they learn how they can continue this process, and then they have their family and friends come and celebrate their accomplishment. And so it's a model that's very doable, and they do it in 5 days. You can too. But you have to be committed to making the change, changing your mindset, believing it's possible. So a little bit about me. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I've been working in mental health for about 15 years. And during that time, I worked in nonprofit, working with children who are severely emotionally disturbed. And then I decided that I wanted to make a transition. And I'm also a certified professional life and business coach. And then I'm also a business owner. I own this company, Fuller Life Concepts, which provides life coaching services. And then I also am a business owner of Mind Your Own Business, which is, I love saying it, Mind Your Own Business. We hosted a seminar at a hotel, and when I went up to pay the bill, the lady said, "Oh yeah, and your name?" And I said, "Well, Mind Your Own Business." And she kind of laughed, and she was like looking at me kind of crazy, and then realized that that was the name of the business. So it's kind of fun to say. But also, it's a coaching business for leaders and executives. And so we go in and we provide trainings and workshops to help managers and CEOs create an work environment that is not based in fear, where they can help improve productivity in the workforce. And then lastly, one of the new things I kind of started is Fuller Property Solutions, and that's just investments into properties. I'm also a talk show host, and my talk show is on Amazing Women of Power Radio Network, and it's called Change is Personal. And in that talk show, I talk about change. I talk about the change process, and I help the listeners go through the different phases of change, the different stages of change, and then what are the barriers. So it's very congruent with this talk that I'm giving today. And I'm also an author. I am a contributing author to Careers from the Kitchen Table, volume number 3, and that should be coming out later this fall. I will let you know when that is coming out. And lastly, I'm a solo parent. I am the proud mom of a 3.5-year-old daughter, and she's absolutely scrumptious. If you looked at the list of developmental achievements that happen for 3-year-olds, anywhere from 2 3/4 to maybe almost 4, you would see a picture of my daughter because she fits all of those developmental stages. And I think she is so delightful to be around. She's funny, she's determined, she's creative, she likes dance and arts, and I think she's the most wonderful blessing that ever came to me. And I'm so proud and privileged to be her mom and be in her life every day. And the reason that I'm a solo parent is when I was pregnant, I decided to go back to school, and I did training to be a business and life coach. And then also, at that time, my husband was dealing with leukemia, and when she was 10 months old, he died. And so that step got me on a track to I needed to really make changes in my life. And I wanted to make sure that I was living the life that I deserved. And I looked back on a planner that I had when I was in grad school, and it said I wanted to be a motivational consultant. And for me, that meant working with people who wanted change, which is different from mental health, because often when people are referred to through social services or mental health, they're forced into having to look at their lives and try to make changes. Whereas I wanted to work with people who were self-referrals, who wanted to make changes, who may have been dealing with some kind of a tragedy, adversity, or a challenge, but they were willing to look at that and be brave and take risks. And that is how I became a life coach, because I already knew that I wanted to work with certain people, and here I am doing it today. So let's move into you. What's holding you back? What's keeping you from living the life you deserve? Because I'm sure you have goals and you have dreams, you have desires, but you're making excuses. I know I do. I have. So now it's time to stop making excuses. Because there are a myriad of excuses you can use as to why you're not going for it right now, why you're not living it now. What are some of those excuses? Write those down. What are some of those excuses that you are living with? What's keeping you stuck? So the original excuses I had: fear. I was afraid of judgment. I was afraid of failure. That's a huge one. I was afraid of being overwhelmed. And I was also afraid because I didn't know where to start. I didn't have an idea about where to start. So let's go back to judgment. When I decided to do the radio show, I was sharing that with a group of friends, and one of the friends looked at me and said, "You're going to do a radio show?" And I said, "Yeah." "Well, what do you have to say? What are you going to talk about?" Yikes! Is that judgment? Did that tap into that fear I already had? Of course. Had to walk through that fear anyway. Failure. One of the things I talk about is mindset. And if you see failure as a block, then it's going to be. If you see not accomplishing whatever the goal was as an opportunity to kind of look at it, dissect it, what happened? What were the reasons that I didn't make that goal, reach that goal? Then you can see it as an opportunity for growth versus a roadblock. And I'm thinking that it's just quite a easy excuse to be afraid, to be worried about overwhelm or failure, where to start. And some of the excuses that you could use would be money. I mean, starting something new or taking a trip or ending a marriage or whatever it is that you need to do to make sure that you have a fuller life. Often money comes into play. Another would be time. When are you going to fit it in? How are you going? Because if you're going to start a new business and you currently are working, you're going to have to figure out a way to overlap those. So time will be important, but that's just an excuse. You can always make the time. And then for me, credibility was huge. I'm trying to get out into a new workforce, and like my friend said, what do I have to say? What do I know? Not to mention I have degrees and experience that just help, but you do too. And the last would be confidence. Like, who am I to think I can be successful? Who am I to think that I deserve this? That's confidence. So, starting today, it's time. It's time for change. Now it's time for you to make the changes in your life because you deserve it. I think about a client that I had, and she was really confused about her current job position. She really was stuck in an environment and in a work position that wasn't working for her. And she had a strong desire to be a consultant, to go out onto her own and work from home with her children. But she realized that she didn't believe she was worth it. She didn't believe she had the talent, the skills, the information. She had a lot of judgment. She had a lot of excuses. Oh, I don't have the right position in mind. I don't know how to start a website. I don't know. And there was a lot of excuses that she kept coming up with. And we talked through all of those excuses. We talked about what she really believes. And one of her underlying beliefs was that it wasn't okay to take a risk. And being that she had that underlying belief, it was holding her back. So talking through the fact that she had that belief, figuring out ways that she can go ahead and take risks and that it was okay, and who did she need to be supportive in her process, and how could she talk to that person or those people, she became very successful. She started practicing and implementing systems for change, as well as creating new systems, especially like a calendar. Putting everything into one place was so essential for her in that she had 3 young children in the home. She began to trust her intuition and made decisions for herself and for her career. And what came out of all of this process that she went through, that I call Delve, was she created a community of supporters. And she became really successful in her consulting career, in her consulting business. And I share that brief explanation or outline of one of my clients so that you know it is possible. And we all have challenges that lay before us, but it's possible for you to do it. And I want you to believe that you can. Okay, so here we are. The Great Divide. And I want you to look at this and ask yourself, where am I now? And that means, what are the feelings? What are the thoughts? What are the beliefs that you have right now that are keeping you where you are? And I use where I am now, I use the image of traffic because that's where I was. I was stuck. Not only was I literally stuck in traffic, commuting in LA County from an hour to an hour and a half each way, I was stuck. I was stuck in feeling overwhelmed. I was stuck in feeling discouraged, depressed, frustrated, angry. All I saw was roadblocks, traffic in front of me. That was where I was now. And where do I want to be? I wanted to be, one, at a beach, because what could be more perfect for me than being in a sunny beach? But I also wanted the openness. I wanted opportunities. I wanted options. And that is one of the things that you get when you make the choice. You get all of those options. You get choices. So let's start off with you. What do you want to do specifically? Okay? Where is it that you want to be? Okay, so if you have a piece of paper, I want you to draw a circle on the piece of paper, because we're going to begin to discover, which is, oh, sorry, I forgot about the overview. We're going to start with discovering your vision. What is it that you want to be? Then we're going to explore what are the defenses, and that would be week 2 for you to do. What are the defenses that are holding you back? Week 3, what are the new skills that you need to learn and begin to implement? Week 4 is visualizing your success, and that means having a concrete visualization, whether that's digital or a vision board, and also that means visualizing internally. And then week 5 is embracing new connections. What are those support systems that you're going to need to embrace in order to keep yourself moving forward? So let's start with discover. So now you have a piece of paper. I want you to draw a circle on the piece of paper. And you can fill up the whole page, it's fine. And once you have that circle, I want you to draw a line. So you split the circle in half from left to right so that you have 2 pieces of your circle. And then inside the circle, I want you to make an X. So it should look like a pie. And the pie should have 6 sections. And we're going to call these the 6 life areas. So it should look like this. And in each of the areas, we're going to put a different thing. So the first one's travel and fun. And that could be one portion of your pie. So we're going to look at 6 life areas as a whole, because this is the entire you. And what are the different elements of you that you can look at and you can begin to make changes. And the first one is travel and fun. The second one is career. So is it that you want to make a career change? Is it that you want to make some kind of a change in your relationship? Bring somebody into your life? Or remove somebody out of your life? The next one's financial. Are you feeling like you are financially secure, or is there more for you to make? You need to make more money because you need to make ends meet, or you need to make more money because you want to, I don't know, travel, experience life differently, buy a new house, buy a new car. The next one's spiritual, and that is getting to the core, believing that, one, there is, something bigger than you that has an impact on your life. And spirituality is not religion based, although you can be religious, and tap into that as your spirituality. But if you aren't religious, you can also just believe in a mindset of give. You can believe in a mindset of, what I put out there, I get back. You can believe that you have, the ability to make changes spiritually. And the last is health, your physical and emotional health. So in each of these 6 areas, I want you to think of on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being not very happy, 10 being very satisfied. And in each of those boxes, or slices of pie, I'd like you to write a number from 1 to 10 in each of those boxes. And once you write that number, I'd like you to color in so that it looks like a thermometer, how a thermometer goes from 0 to 100 and it goes up. So you color from the inner corner of the slice all the way out to whether it's a 1, a 2, a 8, or 10, so that you can have a visual representation of what it is that you feel like the areas that you want to work on or that you're doing well on. And then pick one. Which one do you want to focus on for your 5 weeks? Okay, now I want you to be really specific. So if you want to work on changing your career, I want you to use exact amounts. So for example, when I decided I wanted to change my career, I was working 40 plus hours a week. I was commuting. I was making, I don't remember, under $100,000 a year. And I was overwhelmed and frustrated and etc. So what I wrote down was, in that box of career, I wrote down, I want to work 20 hours per week. I want to make more than $200,000 a year. So I got really specific about what it is I want. Use specific dollar amounts, use specific time frames, and be very specific. And so that's how you get started in your life area. And then, so that's one, what do you want to do specifically? Number two, when do you want to accomplish it? So for example, I want to accomplish it by the end of 2013. So I want to work by myself. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to work 20 hours. I want to make over $200,000 a year. I want to be able to take off 4 to 6 weeks so I can travel. And I think I want to do that by the end of 2013. Very clear. Not fuzzy goals, very, very clear goals. So how long do you want to stay unhappy? How long do you want to stay unhealthy? Do you want that to go on for another 4 years, 5 years? Or do you want to make changes now? And it's okay. Now is a time for you to be real. Now is the time for you to be about you. Now is the time for you to take action. Okay, so the third section is why. What are the reasons that you want to accomplish this change? What will it bring you? Be very, very wordy when you write this down. Fill up a whole page if you need to. Because I needed to get control of my schedule. I needed to get out of the gridlock, literally and in my head. So I started looking at my senses. So write it down, even write down what you want to feel, what you want to experience. Which senses do you want? So I wanted to feel excited and encouraged and supported, successful. And I knew what it would look like. It would look like me working a schedule where I had days off, me taking time off, for vacations. I knew what I would hear. I would hear people saying, wow, how are you able to do that? I want to have what you have. And that helped me to really get solid in my why. I looked at my senses. What was I going to feel when I accomplished the goal? What your life will look like. And what types of things will you hear that are supportive? Of course, we're going to have naysayers, but we're going to not pay attention to that. We're going to think of the supportive things that you'll hear. So that's week 1. Discover. Ready for week 2? Explore. So who are you and what do you believe? What is your mindset? What does it tell you? So are you stuck in struggles that, you're not okay? You're not good enough? You're afraid? You don't want to take a risk? So what thoughts, emotions, or feelings are limiting you? What resentments are you still holding on to? Is there any guilt or shame that you're holding on to? Like it's not okay. It's not okay to be successful. It's not okay to take a risk. It's not okay to be happy. Some people come from some of these belief systems. What are yours? What is your belief system? What kinds of thoughts are running through your minds? So what limiting beliefs are holding you in place? What are the messages that you're telling yourself? I know that oftentimes we have what are called cognitive distortions. And they are messages that we tell ourselves about how we distort life and our experiences. And sometimes we say to ourselves, if I'm not perfect, then I'm a failure. And actually, that's just an all or nothing thinking. That's just a cognitive distortion because we can challenge that. That's not true. Sometimes we believe that, in fortune telling, oh, you know what, if I start a business, nobody will buy anything from me. How do you already know the future? That's called fortune telling. So those some of the messages that you're telling yourself, they're not really true and they can be challenged. So what's underneath the surface? And I talk about an iceberg. And that is, so flip your page over if you filled that one up or go to another blank page and draw an iceberg. And then in the iceberg, I want you to think about at the top, the part that's sticking out of the water, That's just the behavior. So that's just some of our coping skills. But underneath there are feelings and beliefs and expectations. And right under there, what are some of the beliefs that you have? Are you feeling that you are, angry or vulnerable or disappointed or frightened? Do you believe I'm not worthy? I have no choice. I can't trust people. I never can win. Do you have expectations, that, people are going to leave me. People are not going to support me. What do you expect from them? And then what are your underlying yearnings? So write those under the water and go back and reflect on those, and how can you make changes to each of those? What can you say to yourself that makes those positive? Because this is some of the defenses that we have that come from our past. And you want to believe to banish some of those influences. Okay, so now we're going to move into week 3. And week 3 is about learning. So what are the things that you need to learn in order to be successful? And I want to start off by talking about strengths and values. I did an exercise where I looked at my core values and my core strengths, and I thought that was very useful. And so some of the things that I valued were responsibility, connected, like being connected to other people. I valued health. I valued personal growth, safety and security, respect. And I just started writing, what are the things that I value? Because I think that helps in this learning process. And then what are the strengths that you bring to the table? What are the things that are going to keep you going? And for me, I'm like, some of the things that brought me is I am analytical. I'm pretty much a, online, I'm kind of like I'm very direct in terms of where I want to go from A to B. I don't really like waver. I'm organized. I'm healthy. Some of the strengths. So write down some of the things that are strengths for you. So that's your core values and your strengths. And then let's go to mindset. And I think mindset is so important. I think mindset is, like we said at the beginning, when you were setting up, what is it that you want to get out of this webinar today? What is your intention? That's helping you to set your mind right so that you can be focused and willing and ready. And it helps you to stay focused on what the end result is, whether that's for today or whether that's for the end of the week or whether that's for your year or your life. So what is it that you need to do in order to change your mindset? I know I needed to tell myself every day that I was worth it, that I was worthy, that I could trust people, that I could be loved, that I was, lovable, and I began to believe those things, and they stuck with me, and that was me changing my mindset. So how do you stay focused? And this is exciting for me because this is something that I really appreciate and enjoy doing. And that is creating to-do lists. And those are some of the systems that I use. So here's what I do. So I create a to-do list for the month. So I look at the month, like I looked at June, and I said, what is it that I want to accomplish in June? So I write June in the center of the paper. And then outside of June, I write all the different tasks that need to happen in order for me to accomplish that in the month of June. So let's say that I wanted to host a webinar in June. So in the middle, I put webinar. And then all the different points would say, one would say, create outline or a topic for the webinar. Another one would say, figure out what platform you're going to use to host the webinar. Another one would say, invite attendees and create emails and correspondence so you can inform people about the webinar. And then you break that down, which things do I need to do each week? So now I have a month at a glance. Now I break it down to what do I need to do each week? And then even more detailed is each day, what is it that I need to accomplish each day and how many hours can I devote to it each day? And so you just break it down. So you start off with a month, You break it down to what do I need to do each week, what needs to be accomplished by the end of my week, and then what do I need to accomplish each day to make sure that I'm doing it by the end of the week. So each morning you get up and you review your to-do list. There may be a few things that were left over from the week before, but that's okay. It happens. But it becomes a habit. And that's some of the new skills you might need to implement in order to be successful in making the change in 5 weeks. And it also helps to keep you accountable. Because you look at that list and you're like, oh my, I didn't do A, B, and C. I need to get to that right away. And that helps you to begin practicing some of the new habits. So one was do a strengths and values. Another was your mindset and staying focused. And then another one was create to-do lists and practice new habits. So let's move on to week 4. Week 4 is visualize. And that is, now that you have these things in place, you need to have a internal representation of what your life will look like at the end of the transformation when you reinvent yourself. And I also encourage you to have something that's visual, whether it's digital, because they now have digital vision boards available on websites, or you can make one that's paper and pen from magazines. But it's time to visualize. And I will begin by your personal power. And there's an exercise I want to do really quickly with you about your personal power. So close your eyes and remember or identify a state in which you had all of the resources available to you. A time when you were fully in a state of excellence in your personal power. What did it look like? Can you visualize yourself in that moment? What sounds do you hear? Can you hear the voices of excitement? And remember, how was that feeling for you? Be aware of what your body is. And at that time, you are invincible. You are strong. You're at the peak. You are experiencing and sensing and feeling excellence. And you hear others around you applauding and cheering. And you also may hear voices saying, congratulations, you did it. And you realize you're in your A game. You are on top of the world and you feel like $1 million. And in fact, you are in such great shape. And that's right, you are fully confident because you really know what you are doing. And your enthusiasm is off the charts. And you realize that in this state of being, you can do anything. You can excel. You can pass any test. You can stay strong. You can stand tall because you're in your A game. You can overcome any barriers. You are full of strength and you are enthusiastic. So now, take a deep breath. I want you to realize how that feels in your body and all the sensory perceptions around you. And you might notice that you've shifted in your chair a little bit. Or maybe, you're moving your shoulders around because you're now starting to really imagine and really feel and be part of it at this moment in your physical power. And you're standing in it and you're ready for the world. And you're ready for anything and you're aware that whatever is before you, you're experiencing with ease and confidence. Embrace this feeling and visualize for yourself. How do you look when you visualize it? Notice the sounds that you hear. And how do they sound? What do you feel in your body when you are in this state of your own personal power? Now I want you to hold on to this and hold on to this vision. Hold on to this feeling. Hold on to this sensation. I want you to just hold on to it. Make it real. This is your personal power. You feel fantastic. You're on top of the world. You're at your peak. Okay, now we have to anchor it somewhere in your body. So touch something, some part of you. Maybe tap the back of your wrist. Maybe pinch a little bit of skin between your forefinger and your thumb. Maybe squeeze your index finger and your thumb together. Somehow anchor this feeling to that touch. So that means when you do this touching, whether it's your wrist or pinching between your fingers or just putting together your thumb and your index finger, It'll take you right back to this feeling, right back to this state. And make sure you do what works for you as an anchor. Okay, now I want you to imagine a time in the future when you will activate this personal power, when you're stepping out of your comfort zone and into a situation that used to be uncomfortable for you, but now you're doing it with your personal power. I want you to imagine putting yourself into the state of personal power and using your anchor to activate it right now. That's right, activate your state of personal power. Maybe you feel yourself sitting or maybe even standing taller. Your confidence, your energy, your enthusiasm. See yourself in the future situation right now. Feel how strong you are and listen to how enthusiastic and confident it sounds. Take a deep breath. Now I want you to visualize, listen, and feel in the clearest detail possible how things are different for you because you've been activating your personal power. Notice and feel. Notice what you see. Notice what you listening to. Wonderful. So in a moment, open your eyes and become aware of your environment. And you've just stepped into your personal power. And this is such an amazing process. You can use it anytime. And you can just activate your personal power, especially in times of stress or overwhelm or frustration or confusion or doubt. Because that's all stuff that's in the past. Anything that normally caused you stress, that's in the past. Anything that made you nervous, that you were afraid, you just breeze by it now. And you'll realize that you've accomplished something that you know in the past would have been really difficult for you, but now you can do it because you are in your personal power. And there's such an importance of being able to see and do and believe. So that's step one to visualizing your success. So another option or opportunity is to be able to trust your intuition. We all have the answers. We have the ability to acquire knowledge without interference. We don't even need to look anywhere but inside. We have the answers to all of our questions. And our intuition gives us honest information that impacts our lives. It's ways to tap into your intuition is one, meditate. And that means just make contact with yourself. Breathe. Close your eyes. Relax. Get into an open space. That's one way to begin trusting your intuition. Another would be journal. So here's an exercise I'd like you to try at some point, really soon. And that is, think of a question or problem or something you're contemplating. And then write down 3 possible solutions to that problem or that question. And tear them, rip them up, ball them up, fold them up, and put them somewhere in a bowl or a cup. Take a deep breath and put yourself into your personal power. And then ask yourself the question aloud. And then reach into the bowl and pull out an answer. Pull out the solution. And I guarantee you it's the right one. Because it always is. It's the correct solution. Because you allowed your intuition to answer that question to problem solve. It's really fun to do. It's at first it's kind of mind-blowing. And you're kind of like, whoa. And you might be a little off kilter. But one of the things I think is really important for you to think about is that you have all the answers. And this is where your resource of courage fits in. Because one of the things that happens is we are encouraged or discouraged from trusting our own intuition. And we tend to, answer what other people think we should answer or believe what other people think we should believe. This is an opportunity for you to just trust your own intuition and do it your way. And I'm so excited for you. All right. Now we're to week 5, and that's embrace. And that is embrace change. I chose this image because what if this caterpillar decided they wanted to stay a caterpillar and not go through this process? And this is a very tough process of change that this butterfly has to go through. Cocooned and then have to actually break out of the cocoon, that's quite a challenge, right? It is possible. It is possible to embrace change. And one of the things that's the biggest challenge for people, especially who've lost like a dramatic amount of weight, is that when they look in the mirror or when they go to buy clothing, they still see themselves as the overweight person. And it was so hard for them to embrace change. Kind of like my example that I gave at the beginning when I talked about, enjoying that reality show, What Not to Wear. That was one of the hard things for each of those participants, was embracing the change and changing their mindset and believing that it's possible. So how do you embrace change? One of the most important things that you can do to make sure that this changes stick is for you to get around other people who are like-minded, who will support your change. People who are going to walk you through the change process. The ones who are going to cheer you on. The ones who are going to say you can do it and be supportive and hold your hand. And when you cry, they're going to say, you know what, this is just a hurdle. It's an opportunity for growth. And when it's tough, limit contact with some of those naysayers, people who don't believe that you can do it and don't trust that you can do it. Because you can. You just need to believe. There's a lot of self-acceptance, self-care, and believing in what is possible. And that's how you begin to embrace change. Okay, so let's do summary, because we're getting down to the end of the hour. Do you have any questions that you want me to answer, anything that you want me to go back to, or you want me to review? Just type it in the chat box and I will make sure I get to it before we end this hour. And I want to really appreciate you for going through this with me, because I do believe that it is possible for you to make changes in 5 weeks going through this. So week 1 is to create your vision, what it is that you want for yourself. So during week 1, really go back and write down what it is that you want. What are those 6 life areas do you want to address? And be very specific about what it is that you want. Specific data, time frames. Why do you want it? Why now? What is the thing that's hurdling you, pushing you over to want it right now? And when? What is your time frame? Week 2, that's time for you to begin banishing some of those barriers and changing your mindset. And one of the exercises that, I encouraged you to do for week 2 was to look at some of the underlying beliefs that you have. What are some of those cognitive distortions that you have that are holding you back? What are some of those beliefs that you're holding about being capable or being lovable or being, able to succeed, to take risks? Week 3 is when you begin to implement schedules. And you look at your strengths and your values, and then you create schedules. Start with the month, then put them in for the week, then put it in for the day. And one of the things I use my smartphone, and it sets reminders for me, and alerts. And so I'm constantly getting alerts. Oh, you need to do this today at this time. And that keeps me accountable. Week 4 is to visualize. So I encourage you to stay in your personal power and to work on your intuition. Try that, example I gave you of ripping up, writing down the answer, 3 possible solutions to a question. And do that every day. Do something to make sure that you are able to stay in your personal power, to be able to trust your intuition, and also a visual representation of what it is and where you want to be. And then last, week 5 is establish relationships that are with supportive people. And that is the way that you can begin to embrace change. So what I have that I want to share with you is I have broken down these options, this process, into a program I call Delve. And the Delve program, it's a 5-week-long program that, my button got stuck. So it's a 5-week-long program that in each week we we work on all of these different areas. And it's an hour and a half each week where we will go through the 5 weeks of reinventing yourself. And I am offering this to you as an opportunity to work with me directly in a small group environment. And here's what you'll get for your Delve process. You'll get the 5 weekly webinars. And that is where I will come on. I will talk to you about all the different steps, and we'll break these out into a lot longer, because each hour to hour and a half will be devoted specifically to that week. And so you'll get 5 weekly webinars, and I include a workbook and all the handouts, and there's lots of opportunities for homework that we can discuss and interact with. And then also an unlimited access to an online group forum. And that is essential, because that's when you begin to make connections and get support from other people who are also going through the change process. So in addition to that, you also get one individual consultation call with me. And when I work with people on creating their vision and goals, it usually takes, an hour, hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours, depending on where people are in their process and how many barriers that come into play. And so one of the things that happens is in the individual consultation calls, I will work with you one-on-one on what barrier or what challenge that you have. And that could be a 1-hour call or 2-hour call, depending on what you need at that time. And so I'll give you personal attention. And then lastly, you also get the 6 Breakthrough Changes Personal radio shows that I find very moving and inspirational for anybody going through the change process. And I just add that in as part of the package. And so the total value of this package is $3,464. But because you are on this webinar, your total investment would only be $1,297. And for your convenience, I've made that one payment of $1,297, or you can break that down into 3 payments of $525. And so this is an opportunity for you to work with me personally and for me to help you through your 5-week change process so that you can reinvent yourself. Remember, that includes the 5 weekly webinars, the workbook, handouts, and homework, unlimited access to an online group forum, one individual call with me where we talk through whatever the challenge or barriers that you're having, and if we need to create a vision or a plan, we work through that. And then that includes the 6 Breakthrough Changes Personal radio shows that are very motivating and supporting of this change process. And so that's your total value was $1,297, and I'm extending that to you as a gift, as an encouragement, because when do you need to make the change? So one of the ways in order to get there is to go to www.fullerlifeconceptsblog.com, and I have it at the bottom of this screen, /delve. And on there you also get the opportunity to choose whether or not you want to make the one payment or whether or not you want to do the 3 payments of $525. And I encourage you to do that now. So some of the things that happens when you're given a choice or a decision point, and the decision right now is whether or not you are going to become part of the 5-week Delve program, working with me directly. And you might be thinking, oh, now it might be some of the excuses that we talked about earlier might become popping up. Time, money, doubt, fear, concern, worry. But I challenge you to walk towards what you deserve, and it's time for you to get what you deserve, for you to reinvent yourself, for you to have the life that you want, for you to make the changes, because it is possible. It is possible to go from feeling the angry, frustrated, annoyed, uninspired to excited and proud and successful. It is possible to reinvent yourselves. I was looking at an article the other day, and it talked about how 2 million people are leaving their jobs every month to try to start something new because they are so unfulfilled and so unhappy. And here I'm giving you an opportunity to do that with me, for me to walk you through the process. So we're coming to the end of the call, and I want to say I really appreciate that you have been on this call with me and that you have now been given the information for you to reinvent yourself in 5 weeks, because I believe a fuller life is possible. And if you want to connect with me, you can send me an email, kim@fullerlifeconcepts.com. You can like my fan page, Fuller Life Concepts, on Facebook. And you can also follow me on Twitter at Kim Fuller Life.